Welcome to That Weird Friend podcast. I'm your host, Ariana Kaminsky, and if you're weird, I hope you'll be my friend. Long time no see. I haven't made a podcast in a while because I was just so overwhelmed with everything in the world and in my life. And I graduated, finally. That's kind of what distracted me and put me into overdrive and made me realize I needed to take a break. Because I graduated and I didn't care because I was just so overworked. I was just so confused with everything going on. My long COVID made everything seem terrible because I felt miserable. I still do. At least now I don't have school to worry about, but just before it was distracting me, and now I have to deal with that. I feel terrible and trying to deal with it when everyone around me doesn't get it. So that's been difficult. I have found a doctor that is actually listening to me. He is a functional neurologist, and he believes me, which is he's the first doctor, or one of the first doctors who actually believes what I'm telling him and isn't just writing it off as being anxiety, because basically my worst symptoms are brain fog and confusion, and on top of that I also have eye issues. My eyes aren't focusing, things don't seem in focus. I'm really dizzy, I'm nauseous, I have body aches, headaches, numbness of the legs and arms and head, a whole bunch of things. And this is all stuff that is constant, 24/7. It doesn't go away. So I don't have a moment of rest at all. It's just a constant thing that I have to deal with every single day, and I don't get any day to recharge because it's a constant discomfort. I think that's kind of what's burning me out, because even now I haven't had school for 2 months now, and I'm still exhausted as ever because I'm trying to find out things to do to help me, finding some balance of how can I do things that make me happy if I'm so miserable, and if I need to modify the things that I do to make me happy. What can I might like photography, for example, and maybe I can't drive myself to a place and take pictures, but can I take pictures in the backyard? And how can I modify my environment to make it so I'm still able to do what I like, even if it's not exactly how I used to do it? So that's what I'm working on trying to figure out, but it's exhausting and frustrating when I put in all these modifications and I take all this time to try to figure out how I can do something, and it still doesn't work out, and I still end up getting really sick, or it's just really frustrating, and you feel like you're backed into a wall and just so alone. Because I've been going to the doctors for a while now. Finally I found a doctor, like I said, that's helping, but even he said it's going to take a while to get better because my body basically is in this fight or flight mode all the time because of COVID aggravating my brain injury. It's made my body into overdrive, and it's really stressed out and really tense, and it always feels like it's in danger. And it's not an anxiety response, it's my body reacting as if it is. So that's why a lot of times the word I use to describe how I feel is scared, because I always feel like I need to run from something, and it's not I'm in actual danger. It's not my anxiety is bad. It's more so that my body is reacting chemically as if it is in absolute danger all the time, and that's why I feel so on edge. And it's scary, and especially it was even more scary before a doctor believed me, because I thought I was what the heck is going on? No doctor's believing me. Doctors are saying it's anxiety, but I know anxiety, and this is not it. It's something different, because I have had anxiety in the past, and I know what it feels like, and it can be bad, but it's a different feeling than this. It cannot be controlled. It's my body reacting to the situations. Well, my body reacting chemically to this brain injury worsened by COVID. And it's the best thing I can do is try to calm down and do breathing exercises and relax. And I do feel better, but then my body, once I get out of that consciously calm state, my body starts getting tense again, and the cycle starts all over again. So it's not something like anxiety. I've known like I can work on it like with a therapist or something, or do affirmations and try to work through it, but it's different when it's a chemical. I know anxiety can be chemical too, but it's, for me, my anxiety is different than this. This is something that I can't think my way out of. It's more of like I need to work with my body to figure out what it needs and to do it. And it's not just a thought that's gonna solve the problem. It is I don't know. And my body just needs peace and relaxation, and every time I turn around, something else comes up that is like a major life change that does not make peace and relaxation possible at all. So this episode, as you can see, I'm talking about long COVID. I've been making videos on my YouTube channel talking about long COVID and my experience with it, because I'm just trying to like raise awareness, because I feel like a lot of people have no idea what it is, or how bad it can be, and how it can impact your life. And I'm just trying to speak out and I don't know, just like do my part to make it so we're not invisible, because a lot of comments on my YouTube videos are that I'm not alone, and that there are a lot of people like me, and that they understand, and that, that they thank me for making the videos. And if making a video that gets 20 views is helpful to those 20 people, then that's what I'm gonna do. And I figured, this is my first podcast back. Let me talk about long COVID, because that's why I haven't done it in a while, a podcast, because I've just been overwhelmed. And before, in the past, I would spend a lot of time editing my podcasts. I would go in and cut out little pauses, but because of my long COVID, my adjustment is I'm not going to be nitpicking the little pauses. I'm just going to cut out the big chunks of pauses I take, and that's going to be my modification, so I can still do what I like, which is recording a podcast and just being creative. Yeah, so I'm going to look on my phone. I'm going to discuss certain things that I wrote down that I think are important to know for people who need to be empathetic towards people with long COVID, or for people with long COVID who are listening, who just want to know that they're not alone, and that there are other people like suffering and who also feel invisible and feel like the world is moving on without them. I get it. So one of the top things on my list of why long COVID sucks, is the isolation, mentally, physically, socially, emotionally. I feel like every type of isolation possible, especially if you have brain fog, you can't think straight, you lose part of yourself. Then you can't express yourself how you want, you can't enjoy your old hobbies, you can't be the funny self you are with friends, and you can lose friends that way. When you go to doctors, they might belittle you and make you feel like your problem isn't real. They might just say it's anxiety, or push it off as something you can just think through, that it's just something you're doing to yourself, as if that's something you should ever say to someone who is in so much suffering. Isolation, like I said, due to losing friends who don't understand or don't want to take the time to understand. I've definitely experienced that. Or family members. Isolation is like the first thing I think of when I think of long COVID, because you go in isolation physically to protect yourself from getting sick again, and then that turns into social isolation and mental isolation, and thoughts start to spiral in your mind because you have nothing to disrupt the thoughts, because you're all alone and you have nothing to distract you, no outside interaction to change your thought process or get you thinking about something else. Another thing that is important to touch on is that I'm suffering every single day with no relief. And I think that people just don't get that. Sometimes I do push myself and to do something I used to care about, like say take pictures, but then afterwards I would feel really tired and have to rest, and I won't feel good. And it's just miserable knowing that maybe I'll get better one day. Maybe, not sure. But even if I do, it will take a while, and it's going to take a lot of work. Like I said, working with my functional neurologist, it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to be a painful process. But it's like, even in the best case scenario, the journey is going to be really hard. And that's like scary to think about every day, and to be in so much pain and know that there's not a quick fix for it. especially the brain fog and the confusion is scary because you don't know left from right. Sometimes you think things and you're just like, did I remember that right? You start to doubt yourself. And especially if you tell other people how sad you're feeling, sad or how bad or how much pain you're in, and they try to dismiss it, then you start to doubt yourself even more and be like, am I exaggerating this? But no, it is terrible. And it took me a while to be able to put my foot down and say that, because I would just believe people when they would try telling me, oh, it's nothing, or you're fine. But now I know, I'm not fine. This is really terrible. And the fact that you can look at me and tell me I'm fine means that your life motto is ignorance is bliss. Because if I'm your friend and I'm telling you I'm really suffering and you're looking at me and telling me I'm fine, that means you really don't care about me or my well-being or my emotions or anything, truly. Long rant there. Clearly that touches a soft spot. So I touched on how this can make you lose who you are because you can't do the hobbies that you love or go see the people that you care about. You can't have your personality or your funny self because you're just in this loop of pain and there's no end in sight, and your goals for the future could be out the window, or they feel like they're out the window because you don't know if you'll ever get better. It's scary to have the future be so unknown and be in so much pain and just keep walking towards the future, or walking like a snail towards the future that you don't even know what is there. Every day is like a mountain, like a Everest to climb. Every single day I wake up and I'm like, okay, doing this again. And then by the end of the day, I'm like, I'm exhausted. How can I do this again? Then the next day I wake up and think the same thing. Let's do this again. And then at the night I'm exhausted. And I'm like, how could I ever do that again? But I'm doing it somehow, one step at a time. And I know other people are dealing with it too. That's why I know, like, for some people listening to this podcast or listening to people talk about long COVID might be annoying, but those are the lucky people. Because if you are the one with long COVID, then hearing someone talk about it is almost relieving to know that you're being heard and your emotions and your pain are valid. And no one, like, for all the people that try to convince you that it's not real, you just need a few people to just keep reminding you that it's real and you're right to say that you're in pain, because this is really hard. I think that's like the most important thing to mention, is that this is really hard for anyone. And I have problems giving myself like slack on things. I never pat myself on the back, but long COVID is really hard. Not everyone has it as bad as me. Some people have it worse. But I think it brings up how important empathy is, and how people need to, when someone really cares about someone else, whether it's someone they just met, or if they're a friend or a family member they've known for a while, if someone truly cares about you, they will listen to what you're saying and will not try to dismiss what you're saying. I've had people where I tell them how I'm feeling and they tell me, well, someone's worse off than you, so stop complaining. And it's like, that doesn't do anything. Why does everything have to be a competition? Because life is hard for me right now doesn't mean that I'm saying someone else's life isn't also hard. But I can talk about how it's hard for me. If I don't talk about it, then it could get worse and to feel even more alone. Like, that's what people who care about you are there for, to listen to you and help you and support you when you need someone to talk to. So if someone's not letting you talk about it because they think that, oh, someone's worse off than you, so just shut up, well, go find someone else, because they're not a very caring person. And there are people who do care out there. And some doctors are okay. And it pains me to see that 1% of doctors are okay. I feel better saying that. If you haven't found a doctor that helps you yet and you have long COVID, I would say keep looking. Maybe the typical doctors aren't really helpful, but maybe a functional neurologist or a more natural doctor might have other remedies that might help. Because honestly, I've tried so many things. I've looked up online things to try, and I'll try anything at this point. I mean, what do I have to lose? So, I mean, I know a lot of people at that point. So thanks for listening to these podcasts. Sorry I haven't done one in a while. I'm trying my best to do more. Don't want to put any pressure on myself though, so this might be my last one this year. Who even knows? But just wanted to update you guys and spread awareness for long COVID, because I don't want us to get forgotten. Thanks for listening. Today's podcast is sponsored by Fresh Air. Want some fresh air? Go outside and breathe in. Then breathe out. Then breathe back in. This podcast is sponsored by Fresh Air. Get outside today. Thank you to our sponsor. Hope to catch you next week on That Weird Friend podcast. I'm your host, Ariana Kaminsky. I hope you stick around because I like your type of weird. I hope you like mine.